Hello, everybody. I am teaching the church. The church is those who have an ear to hear. Now, this is a solemn message. It's not an attack. It's not accusation. It's great, big decades of experience, knowing there are differences between, and I mean this very politely, I'm pro the Christians, pro the humans. We all make mistakes. But after I have experienced certain things, there are leader subcultures, and the leader Christian, we're talking to Christians only, about Christians, and submitting it as Selah, if you feel, for those who have ears to hear, very respectful. But I was always taught and trained by Christians, generations of family Christians, the osmosis, you just pick up, you're respectful. You go to God's house, Christ's house, and it really is accepting, fair. It could be religious, but it would be all races, all types included, no exclusion. Then you go in there as a person God sent to be on earth right now in a female earth suit, a human in a female earth suit for these pure purposes. And we understand the Bible. We go by chain of command. I've never had any issue with the Christian men of, chain of command order, whatever that is, submission. Now see, the submission within certain groups, the patriarchy, has been such a weird, a bone of contention, a big discovery, because I wasn't raised under authority, I wasn't raised around it, so we're trying to describe it. What I was getting on here for today is I've never been exposed in ministry and Christianity till I went to certain kinds, usually only the same color of myself, only the same subculture again and again, where I believe that I'm being enlightened, where personal magnetism is being used. And it's charismatic. It can be celebrity, but not all people who look like them, that have energy like them. It's the doctrine and the culture. Is it the system? Is it the cult? Yes. Something about that which orchestrates control. And I am very sensitive to that, because I do not believe it. As a person who is a female, a woman, in a female earth suit for her mission, like you are, and you were chosen to be in your kind of earth suit, your style, your bone structure, and your color. Because many times, this is my teaching, reflecting and learning, many times I'm a test for me. I was a test for me. I used to be, because I didn't want to do this. My mom was she was the kind of woman that was godly and fair and loving, but she had the big boss on her, and she was like, I was the firstborn, and people practice, and also if you're two leaders in a home, you don't know this, but it was like authoritarian, over, watching every move, and it made me very careful, and also about men. And as a female, I also am very careful with men. I have a humans ministry, a Christian ministry, and you can tell the difference between kinds of men and their style. Are they really family people or not? Because they will react, you trigger as a person in a female earth suit certain things. So when I'm with white people, black people, brown people, Hispanic, Asian, African American, Caucasian, and they don't have that whatever, that control, need to dominate, something's wrong. Maybe they're not really trustworthy. I'm not trying to put anybody down, because not all charismatic. There is the remnant. I'm dealing with the remnant more up here than ever in the ministry, and I'm so thankful. That's why I can tell the difference. I feel relieved. I feel relaxed. I don't have to put on, watch out, because something bothers me. On behalf of the teaching, respect for office ministry, and being careful for people who don't know this when they would go there and maybe sucked in to this kind of control. And when I was sitting here, I hang out with God. I'm trying not to be religious. I'm trying to be practical. Does it work? Is this true? And not find fault. This is evaluation of experiences in the Deep South, in the Deep Southwest, where I had never seen it like that in my life, as an institution. And in hindsight, it was a shock, because I came from the mannerly discernment East Coast, where very rarely, not even where I lived, you can have good people, a lot of good people that you don't think about. Then you can move to a different subculture within your group and find, false religion or evil eye. But I never felt that I would be violated by as a female. I felt safe. I never felt this until I moved to the Deep South. Then I started to notice it. It comes with, not accusing it, because not everybody's doing this. It comes with celebrity. Whoa. And when you look at every kind of celebrity, the word is a false word to begin with in biblical teaching. In Christian, we got it now, Hollywood, all that stuff. But what happens is, it is to deliver it. This is to deliver it. To realize that Paul, Apostle Paul in 1 Corinthians, tried to nip it in the bud. Because he said, it brings division. Don't say, I'm for Apollos, prophet Apollos, teacher Paul, pastor so-and-so, say I'm for Christ. Because see, that is the root of division. Also, big shot at, people can get into that themselves. They're tempted into making it I don't have to listen to anybody else. I'm under, bragging rights and trading on their name. This is what we experienced. And then we can go to a different kind that is not like that, that are just equally, even more visible. I mean, I can go there now, thank God, and celebrate. But it's the difference of the culture you feel, the imperceived, what is the fruit of the elders, the people? How do they follow? Are they following Christ? Are they looking for their turf, protecting they can't discern, but they say they're prophet. They're looking for the maverick who's not submitted to their authority. That is the difference. But then this morning, I just got the word, it occurred to me, a lot of this, because I look, the history. When I was raised, not abused. I was not raised by a pastor's family, my mom and dad, who were capitalist. Now, everybody fights materialism, they did their thing, everybody's not perfect, but I didn't, the ambition was not, I'm trying to get where the sun is not getting to me here, where it was not, the purpose was to earn income and security, And they were teachers, and they were happy families, and they were educated, so I had a white collar. My dad graduated from the Baptist Theological Seminary in Louisville, Kentucky. I grew up when he was going to school, and Mom was getting her master's. It's not because that was an ego thing or perfect. It was just that it gives me a certain perspective of healthy, happy, wholesome family people. I remember, living down in Louisville, Kentucky, and grandmother would visit. I remember taking walks, and we lived at the lower part of a house with found a cat. My grandmother and I were walking one day and found a cat and brought the cat in. Good family memories. But nobody's got it all. We certainly didn't. The issue is, I'm comparing what is religious versus life-saving in Christianity. All right, what is religious, being right or whatever, hooked on that instead of just practical experience, being with God. This is what I found. So we want that instead. I really am telling, the basic thought is, I didn't know that I would trigger controllers. And in hindsight, I realized Mom micromanaged, and maybe that set me up. And then I had an experience with demonic control after I grew up. And I just didn't want to know this, but this is why Jesus is there, Christ, the Bible, teaching, faith, and binding Satan is there. You have to know your different kinds of weapons for your warfare, also worship. But it took me years to uncover why does a person who's sitting there calmly with a mantle, a call, that is developing, that you know it, but you're not ready, or else you're going, which really was, I was sent, but I started to have violence, attack, control, and I started to suffer in people, groups, subcultures, at 76, at age 24 till now, so it also was part of the understanding of knowledge of subcultures in Christendom. And mine happened to be the warfare of being sort of a really Billy Graham type, Christian, spirit-filled, knowledge of the Holy Spirit, a lot of Bible, core teaching, solid foundation. I just didn't know the infiltration or the effect, slowly and then giant, of Christian media celebrity. And we are not under attack at all now. We're just delivering them. We're not under attack at all. We are very peaceful. But the issue is that when you trigger rebellious, demonic ministry spirits, you do not affiliate or associate, especially if you're sitting there with this white culture and they come after the person sitting there, accusing them. So these are the sunglasses, that this is a type, a deliverance. This is the litmus test for that. And it is your sign. Let's say this: when you see similar, you might think it's me and better be on your best behavior. But this is the sign of your deliverance. The trust you need to regain, and they're not all alike. They're not all your property. This morning, it really will come up, because I'm teaching and making manuals, training, ministry, teaching. This really is perceptible. It is really, when they are, for me at least, as a prophet, it's really different when you deal with family people, a generation that's not theirs. Usually they're this age or whatever. You can tell a difference when you walk in as a visitor, happy Christian, just a Christian. That's it. All you're there is to hear God. And instead it's like this, you feel a spiritual come down on you as it's our waitress, it's our property, we're chattel, better watch it. It's so foul. It is so horrible. It is so defiling and accusing of no reason you've never. So this is where we're up front, because my Bible teaches me, as the head founder of this ministry for leaders and the movement Cross-Body Unity, why do you tolerate that Jezebel? It's a fault-finding force of demonic targeting, which is a Jezebel python to control and constrict. And I've dealt with this. And it is such in rebellion, it doesn't even know its Bible. It will not investigate community, respect, relationships, confrontation. It is in rebellion. So therefore I must do this, because it is a real perspective. I have these men, guy friends around here, Christian men are around here that are not like their family men. And I always check, because I am the female, I always check, am I intruding on their boundaries? But I'm a leader. I'm not meaning that. I'm saying, are they faithful to their wife when they're married? Because I do not want to deal with anybody who's not, and that's my history. But I can't. These people that are clueless better guard their hearts and their lips and their spirits, because there were people that I felt like would help our country with their great worship, knowledge. But I thought me as a top leader, senior leader of a new move. But there's sort of an institution, a white institution of control, and I thought I don't feel good about dealing with them because of personal magnetism. I was going to chat with, and I still will, with one of my Bible study guy, the men that come around here. There are a lot of Christians that are studying their Bible. And, it's like a family feel, and it's so healthy. And so I don't want to be beguiled. I don't want to be psychic read. Because I know it. And it's dysfunctional. It's evil. It's sin. It's rebellion. It's lawless. Whatever this is. It's psychic power, though. I feel the psychic power. So when I grew up, my daddy was the happy camper, safe place to land, the head of home, Bible scholar. His mom followed the chain of command like I do, like I believe in that. Let the man be the leader. Now this is it in modern society. If you know that to teach the men, they need to rise up. That's been the issue. A lot of men like that I deal with here, they already know. They're doing it. And I'm so thankful. Because I feel like their hearts are solid with the Lord. First love. That's what I'm looking for. I do not feel uneasy with these people. I better watch out for them. No. That is so foreign from where I was prior to this. And faking it till you make it country law. Faking it till you're making it. So it causes the female of God, the female leader who is a person first and I think Christian. I want to be like Paul, like Jesus. I determined to know nothing about you except Christ and Him crucified. I'm not looking. I'll notice you're a man. I'll notice you're a woman. I'll notice if you're mean. I'll notice if you're brown or black or white. I'll notice that, but I'm not caring. I'll notice if you're filled with all this fame and glory, and I'll note if you have nothing, and I don't care. I love you. I love the Lord, but I'm looking past it. I respect all. I choose, because I was raised that way. I want to be like that. When we look at faith, some of the movements I treasure for the root, the things that sustain me and cause me to be joyful, happier than I've ever been. From the Baptist to the Methodist, I wasn't Methodist, but the servant leadership of that, the denominational. But then through the years, paving the way for now, giving me the just certain foundational keys that are needed, even though I'm not a part of any movement. God, I respect the authority and different things of the movement. Let's say Kenneth Hagin Sr. and some of the others in Fort Worth, yeah. But I don't go, I'm not, I'm cross-body unity. I can hang with liturgy, which I do, and, African American, Missionary Baptist, non-denominational, nobody goes to church. This is who we're supposed to be in reality, all right? It has sustained me through the mega, through the micro, through the fabulous, through the common. It is a word like Paul. I determined to know nothing about anybody except Christ and Him crucified. That's a teaching to develop racism, overcome racism in the church, or anti-anybody. But the word of faith said it as well, complementing that. It says, holy faith, honest, holy Bible faith, is not moved by what it sees, feels, hears, or other people say. Somehow I got that in my spirit, my soul, my heart in the 80s. And I didn't know, also at that same time as developmental this. I got that about Paul. I got Apostle Paul. He said in Ephesians 3:19, that, or somewhere in chapter 3, in Ephesians, he said, we're living our life, the church is living its life to teach the powers. Big stuff. Every moment counts while you're here for this short time on earth. So I have the Billy Graham, let's say, trace, we're only here for a while. I really mean that. It helped. Thank God for good television, local people that contribute to the, there are people back, because I owe a lot to people, going to fellowship with the saints. Miss Thelma, when I was 2 and my father took the new church, 3 or 4 or 5 maybe, took the new church in the little town, my mother and then we all moved up, and Miss Thelma, when I couldn't even see her face, but Miss Thelma took the 2-year-old's offering, 4 years offering, in her little thing she had fixed for us to put her little dime or quarter in. And I remember her heart. I remember things back there. I think these people do not know who contributed to this. Anything that happens good. So we are of the day. We're not filled with sorrow. That's happy. I can weep with joy. I'm just appreciative. All right, so that was the day, and we have many things that are not even known. But there was a day back then of contrition. Contrition means we'll take self-inventory, we'll self-reflect, we'll self-introspect for the Lord, because we're only here for the short time. And people matter. It's God's people that matter, and ministry matters. It didn't, made up stuff playtime like we see. So there is contrition needed and wanted, but right now instead it's playtime patrician, being the head guy, gal, patrician, ambition. The Roman patricians mixed in the culture. It is of celebrity, but not all. All right, patrician means the Roman patrician. I googled it. You can see it on Wikipedia or somewhere. Because I was thinking, what is it? Because I do have, honestly, God's discernment of this, discernment of spirits in a positive way, trying to be healthy. Because you puzzle. What is this in a subculture? What do you see it over and over in a certain kind? They do the same things at the fruit of the, ministry. So I realized in the big shot in DFW region where I kept bumping into something. it wasn't realism. It wasn't ground, it was like high and mighty, and also, is it entertainment, fantasy, flesh, location of there, and it has it in it. I don't know. So I evaluate, what is this I keep seeing that was like about itself and not organic, not family feel. So I just got it was patrician, Roman patrician. So I Googled Roman patrician. I'm talking to the charismatics, prophetic charismatics in ministry, and it says that the patricians were the 80 aristocrats that governed Rome. The fruit of that would be owning slaves and masters, money, control, authoritarian, big boss. Then that led me to teach later, recently, last couple of years, chat GPT AI, I'll ask it a question, let everybody know I'm doing it because I need to know history, history, not theology. So I'll say, dear chat GPT, and I wrote it out in articles, column. I said, was the first church, because of submission in this, a lot of submission, authoritarianism, our way or the highway, micromanaging control, and it's, I can feel that. And it's like witchcrafts, false authority, slaves and masters, and then evil eye, the woman. Oh my gosh, what's going on. So you just research now, is it me? Oh no, I'm sitting there. Why don't they talk to me? Is it them? Something's going on if they're doing that in their congregation, to their congregation. So then you study, because you're not a slouch, you're a noble Berean. And you get online, you think, now, dear chat, this is what I said, was all the whole church, because it's subliminal. And that's what this is, subliminal. And I just know it. I pick it up as a prophet, one of the kinds of prophets. So I thought, there for the grace of God go I. But dear chat, when Paul wrote about community, and he taught Ephesians 5:21, did that apply to everybody? Were they all servant leader in the church? Because it says mutual submission in the fear of the Lord, the holy, humble, deferring to one another fear of the Lord. Now, was that, where there's authoritarians and controlling authoritarians and totalitarians like now? It said this, 1, the whole church after Jesus left, including all the apostles' offices, lay, elders, and the married couples, he and she need to be trained that too. All right, and I was raised in it. That's why I was shocked by this. All right, so was the first church all like that, trained by authority? It said yes. I then asked, well, then where did the authoritarians' control come in? It said later, listen, later, after the influences of the cultures of Rome and Greece, Hellenism came in. So I would look back and say something is false in the authority right now just because of that. I am discussing this in a natural way, not accusing, but I'm saying there are personality differences. I happen to be low-key. If I can, I can rise up, and I don't want to. So that's one side, servant leader. But there can be people that need to be out there that are more drill sergeant all the time. I have what I never had before Dallas. I have it now, the drill sergeant. You bet. You have to rise up. So people are born that way. But I was thinking, where are the controllers mentioned? Where were the type of people who are like murderous or Hitler or Mussolini or authoritarians, like the instance? And I have said this only recently because I've always dealt with my color, but I've got to be fair and multicultural. It comes to my mind to remind people there are certain groups of people that do more than others as the top leader. So the issue comes to mind, I'll mention it to be careful. When a ministry friend, a quality female, an older woman who'd been employed in an African-American church with the apostle in either Indiana or Miami, better in Texas. And she shared this experience. We're chatting ministry, different kinds of ministry. She said, well, I was there when the pastor, the senior pastor, the apostle, whatever he called himself, lined up his staff of 8 people in the front of the sanctuary and slapped each one on the face. Corporate. What do you think about that? To me, that is just abuse, dysfunction. Yet that is, I can't judge, I can't, in my opinion, I would say this is my teaching out of all this stuff. We want a heart for God. Yeah, we want a heart for God as a minister, but we want to reflect and model the hero heart of God in everything. Not the rules of God, not the religion of God, not the pride of life, or the skill, or the demonic control. We want the heart of God. And I can go back to Adam when he was confronted by God, how he did when he blew God's plan in the organic garden. And he said, Adam, where are you? Giving him a chance to rise up, fess up, I think, like a minister, good minister, or a daddy, a great parent. But instead, now we got liturgical beatdowns and Levitical patriarchism and smothering covering and false religion and the evil eye. And why? Because it brings in the money, it protects the money coming into the coven, the church, the whatever, the bastion, the form, the system, which is there now, and that's why we're uprooting this. So when I deal with, I was seen by this particular crowd as dysfunctional, as weak. It made me realize how they can't read people, because I was in mourning, really, recovering from abuse, trying to find human fellowship and just get my mind off, and try to get slowly back to normal and set up the ministry. But instead, I realized I triggered a really big stereotype and mean about women. And I never thought about women. I'm for women, I just deal with men a lot. I thought, wow, when you're down and you're low and you're not doing, they think you're looking for it. You're easy prey. You're a willing victim. They think you're suspicious because you're mourning. So I realized, I taught it lately, they are clueless about the portraits of the Christ in ministry in this subculture, this great landed subculture, that are not the Solomon. They are instead forgetting a picture of the Christ in Isaiah 53, that Jesus is still respected. He was despised. He was weak. He didn't look, because he'd been through hell and suffering on behalf for his Father, and that is all I represent to teach them. They are absolutely clueless because they've got into themselves. They are the tough customers in the 2 Timothy 3, 1 through 8, and 1 Timothy 6, 5, patricians, ambitious, time-consumed, elite, foreboding, fierce. Just what it says in 1 Timothy 6, 5, the lovers of themselves are fierce. But to me, playtime, junior league fruit, goofy junior league. Why would I use terms like I now use it? I never used any. I never even addressed females or males except to say, I respect you. Black people have not done it to me that I know of at all. So I think it's one type of culture, and I'm sent to know it and to train it, so it can be contrite, self-analysis, get your Bible out, and go forward and be there for the future church. God's love covers a multitude of sins due to the submission attack of the spirit of mammon, the spiritual attack of accusing of the spirit of man. You're not submitted. I won't speak to you. I'll defile you with my eyes. I'll pray against you, but I won't speak to you like a human. Subculture. Big time culture. Submission. So I studied that. Am I? Is this? That's how I know Paul, chain of command, things I use now to teach. But God's love covers a multitude of sins, even that. even me, even anybody else, everywhere. But there is no such thing as covering, spiritual covering in the Bible. I've researched that. There is chain of command, Ephesians 5:21, mutual submission in the fear of the Lord for family and ministry order. Then there is Ephesians 4, community, which is not heard of. It says walking it out in meekness and lowliness and long-suffering, endeavoring to keep the bonds of peace together. Everybody. I would say no big leader I. Had plenty of time collecting my thoughts and gathering my doctrine, my insight about studying after being around this, immersed in it. I thought, where is the missing scriptures of relating, abiding in community? That's what's come out of it. So self-inspection, but also there is no such thing as totalitarianism or control. The other part, my opposite nature. You own me as a female, a pure female, for walking on the property, and this is the thing I really am going to repeat today. I don't understand why personal magnetism is so big in this. Personal magnetism. That is scary to me because I am very careful with myself. And I do not want to be drawn in on that. I don't want to be drawn into that culture. That culture does seem to be money and song, Eli Temple priesthood, women in song, or could be any color of that doing it, and any male or female. It's got that going. So God has given me a grace to flee from that disease, not to accommodate it. So if I am thought of as evil or witchcraft, whatever, why? Because it takes when they're reading you through witchcraft, through occult. This is it, and it's ornery. It reproduces its own. It produces skilled seers that will read and divine. And people as property. So this is why it's a familiar spirit, I think. It's a familiar spirit. And therefore I recognize it. I declare it's false, fake, evil, witchcraft. Teammate witchcraft. And God will not allow this to move. I've suffered even though I can say I have really suffered. I've been without. I've been minus, because you can't affiliate if you're targeted. You don't focus like you want to. On the other hand, getting the freedom of knowledge, release from that, and not being in that now is just great joy. So we're just resurrecting. As I said, where's the common unity that's desired? Easily entreated relationship, failing to discern the body of Christ correctly, that brings down curses on people if they're not careful, death and sickness. Please, we don't want to do that. Whereas the teaching of divine appointments by relationship, hearing God, instead of divining from afar and saying, oh, I know who they are, what they did, and I don't need to, I've just heard the rumor. Is that trustworthy? No. It's evil. It shows the heart. It shows a pure heart or not. Therefore, we're proclaiming a standard. Get off your high horse and relate. Teach it. No, but you want the heart for God. Oh, I want God. But you want the display and train and model the hero heart of God in your ministry, in your teaching, and your work. And your people need this, the staff. I mean, some of these people, the top person can have gone through we understand they've gone through big stuff, and they still do. If you're at the top level, I just have empathy and compassion for these people, the big ones they call prosperity teachers. Nobody, I was there before and see the progress of nobody knows the warfare, witchcraft that they go with their wife and their family, I'm for them. But I would say I've never seen not that kind, this kind, prophetic, charismatic rule. They think they own and they're over the book of Acts wells. No, because they are not compliant with the Holy Spirit. Instead, it's mandatory submission to them, and I am not going to be sucked into that bowing and scraping of the Levitical patriarchate, we are the world boys club, patriarchy of ministry. Not all men, we are for patriarchs. Yeah, anchor dispositions and matriarchs, that's normal. Abraham was a patriarch. But he wasn't a womanizer. He wasn't a controller. He wasn't a Levitical patriarch. When you get false teaching, false doctrine, false coverings, false smotherings, false Eli Temple priesthood stuff, you can read it for yourself. That brought down God's wrath. 1 Samuel, first 2 chapters. It was Eli and his chosen staff that God was fed up with, because they devalued the ministry. They devalued the person and work of the Lord in ministry, the Holy Spirit, the Levite, the call to priests. They devalued it because they were base, dysfunctional, and they chose willfully to participate in evil practices, so much that Hophni and Phinehas, the two sons of Eli, they were the associate ministers, were known as the sons of the devil, because they regularly slept, were unfaithful to their wives if they were married. They were unfaithful to God first and his people, because they slept with the women that came to the temple over and over. They were, let's put it this way, besides that, it means that, we are, we're blind. These are just chattel. They're our property. They're not even people. They're our targets. Like, what's going on now in the famous recent trial and all the stuff exposing online. The famous person now being exposed. All right, I'm not putting that on this level, but I'm saying harlotry is harlotry. Harlotry is harlotry. Not that if the women are beguiled with power, personal magnetism from the authority, the person who is not savvy like this, who's gullible or just tired and has low esteem because they had no good parenting, which is like that. That's how it happens, I think. They would go in there and be drawn into it and easily used to be in a cult. And that happens all the time. It's even on the news. It happens all the time. People are weak-willed because, why? Sad. They had no family that loved them and said, don't settle for it. Don't dare let yourself do that. Don't be drawn in by people. Don't be hooked by it. But there's all sorts of backgrounds, all sorts of people. We get it. We understand. We're not angry at all. We're not upset. We're concerned for the top leader who has to stand before God alone in the judgment and say, are you going to be, guilty? So the things that really turn my soul to this fiery, passionate deliverer is this subculture, this big shot, big time. We are arrived. We are the world. Nobody knows except us. Totalitarian hotshot subculture. So, Temple of Eli High Priesthood, be warned. 2 things: putting pressure on women or people, it could be anybody, to sleep with them or to use them, abuse them, defile them, teenagers, kids, whatever, and money, hand in hand. It's got to have money to fund it. It's got to be money to make them happy. And they put pressure on God's people, manipulated, withstood, used false authority to get the money, and the people were smart around the area, and they said the offering of the Lord was despised in Eli's day because of the high priesthood. Well, what about Eli? He was the head guy. He was their dad. He didn't care. He was an LP. Little women, dime a dozen. They're always overly emotional. They're trying to take control. Stereotype. Just like this. So we're wearing the glasses that is proven that this really exists. You don't have to go far to find this. You just have to try to go and want to go to a charismatic church, any kind of church, that they're in false authority and they really off their pure-hearted personal relationship, first love relationship, and more, plus more. I won't go into. I'm thinking of my wonderful, faithful, kind African American board member, Dr. Johnny Jones of Keisha Ministers, who is a wonderful person with 4 earned degrees. He's now with the Lord. And his story was, he was a charlatan. He was good at it till the Lord got him. And Dr. Jones wrote a book. I can't know where it is, but I wish you were here to tell you. I'd love it. I'd love it. He was such a servant leader, but smart. He said his testimony, when I met him, is all in my board member and worthy and a Christian and around the area. And I met him at a citywide area prayer meeting, and that's how you meet people. You find people that you want to speak into your life, and that they're like friends, not, oh yeah, I got to bow down. No, we're buddy. Friends like many people. You can have that kind of network relationship, all right? Family feel. So his story was that when he started out, he was probably in his 50s when I met him, 60s. He said, I used to be a little boy preacher, black preacher. And, he's gifted. He's a Black Panther imam. I thought, wow, because see, I'm not exactly with the people who think small. I do. I really just am like that if they're nice, I go with it, grassroots type organizer. So he was a grassroots, he was a Black Panther imam. So then later he was a unsaved Baptist preacher, a Black Baptist preacher, and he said his testimony was he would preach on Sundays and sin at night. Later he was part of Jimmy Carter's campaign. So he was in charge around of the nation of getting things for them to sell or give out, which I think were gold peanuts or something, and he owned 2 co-ops in Atlanta. This is when I was in Central Virginia, all right. So this is my pal, people that I would chat with and bounce stuff off of, and meet him at meetings and things like that, which is normal. So he said that he was a faker, gifted faker. And so one day, he and his wife were going down to Atlanta to the co-op, and they had a 5-month-old baby. And he got tired of driving, so they switched, and he held the baby. Well, the baby scratched the cornea of his eye with the little finger. It gave him a brain aneurysm. He went to be a vegetable, and they had to put him, lost everything, memory, all his degrees, function, body function. He had to be put in the hospital, so he was in Medical College of Virginia for 4 or 5 months. She left him and divorced him. People stopped coming. That's his story. So he was there in a vegetative state. And when he was lying in the Medical College of Virginia, all the nurses had seen him and all the doctors, one day the Holy Spirit came and brought him back a picture of one of the sermons passages he taught, which is the paralytic rising and to be healed. This is amazing. So there he was lying in bed, and he sees this picture, and he gets faith and knows the Lord. He sort of meets the Lord, has an encounter with the Lord, and he slides off the bed and inches over like a vegetable to the wall, and the power of God hit him, and he stood up healed. So he's gotten resurrected, So he goes out to the nurses' stand, and they start to scream because he's been in bed. That's his testimony. So it goes on, make a long story short, he got healed in his body and functioning, but he lost his degrees. He couldn't even add a column of numbers, but he got that back too, and when I met him, he was fine. His remaining, one thing he did, he was always on the go, always meeting up in Maryland, down in all these places. He's a networker. He had to have kidney dialysis. So he came out to, a long story, he came out to be, visit me and my other board member, meet us in Dallas, in Texas, in Plano. He came out and we all chatted, and that such a nice person, real person, just real people, no airs, no phony, a nice person. And when he left, and he knew my story of what really went on with all the private things, and nobody thinks they, before then, he and other people, but my board, not the rumor mongers. This is what we learn about local ministry and minding business. So anyway, Brother Jones went home, and after he went home, he dropped off the face of the universe, and I knew he was ill, so I think he, went home with the Lord. But I honor him, I give tribute to him, a godly person, people that you just get, and he was one that was chosen to represent quality, fairness, decency, and family feel, among several others. He also, when I got the relocation, he didn't, say, oh, it's her, she did it, like certain ones that were not that quality. There are people you can tell in the long haul who is really a true Christian to take advice from and who not to. But nobody knows it all, and I certainly do not. We're here for the long haul, and we're here for the crawling pace, the snail pace, or the fast, whatever, the sprint. But right now we're just content, like I have never been solidly content before. The idea is, I'm going to state this. I cannot tolerate being around ambitious, feisty Christians ministry. I cannot take being spied as a type, read as a defilement for an office ministry with disrespect by dysfunction. I will not take evil eye. I will chat and deliver you. But this is the final. I know this crew. It would recognize me, some of them. I have to be careful. I will not be pulled in by your personal magnetism. I will not. I'd rather be around here with family feel people who will not do that. They will be chaste. They will be careful. They will be not religious and not trying to draw me into your control. That, to me, is the height of Christian Levitical patriarchy. And we're not. We're for the humans, but we'd rather be at a snail's crawl or no crawl than be in that stuff. God bless you. This is Taveau DRC from TavoTeachingCenter.com. If you need help, if you need advice, if you need counsel, if you need deliverance, let me know. God bless you.